Hello, my name is Razmig Keucheyan. Thank you for watching this video abstract. I am a professor of sociology at the University of Paris-Cité in France. My research concerns the relationship between capitalism and nature, and especially finance and nature. And in the March 2023 issue of Antipode, I published an article entitled "The Environment Making State and Climate Change, the French Catnat Reinsurance Scheme Under Strain." It is of course an academic paper based on empirical and theoretical research, but it has important political implications, and I would like to tell you a little bit about them in this video. Climate change is already underway. Even if governments take radical measures to mitigate it, and they are far from it unfortunately, its effects are already being felt, and they will only get worse in the years to come. Obviously, there are environmental inequalities. According to the class, gender, or race one belongs to, the consequences of natural disasters, biodiversity collapses, pollutions, and resource depletions will be more or less acute. As has been documented by many scholars, the popular classes will feel the disastrous effects of climate change much strongly than the rich. The fact that climate change is already underway implies that adaptation, and not only mitigation, will be a crucial concern in the decades to come. Adaptation is the process by which countries and communities become more resilient in a context of ecosystemic collapse. It has both a technological and political side. It is a matter of using technologies to implement risk prevention or management measures, but also of organizing communities so as to enhance solidarity before, during, and after catastrophes and other hazards take place. And here too, there will be inequalities, since the rich will be better equipped to protect themselves from the consequences of climate change. Now, adaptation takes many forms, at the local level as well as the global one. One of the forms it will take is insurance. Insurance is basically a way to manage risks financially. By paying a premium before the hazard happens, the policyholder obtains the right to be covered by its insurer if the hazard takes place, even if she hopes it won't. Insurance is a very old mechanism that goes back at least to the early modern period, but it is all the more important today in the context of climate change. Why? Because as the IPCC and many other reports have shown, natural risks are becoming more numerous and more severe. Consequently, insurance will have an important role to play to help people reconstruct their lives, their homes, roads, schools, and other infrastructures after a catastrophe hits, say a storm in the Caribbean, fires in California or Australia, or floods in Asia. This is especially true in the global south, but not only. A crucial question then is this: what kind of climate risk insurance will be the most efficient and just one in the context of climate change? Will it be a private one, a public-private partnership, or a 100% public one? Insurance is always linked to issues of social justice. In my paper in Antipode, I try to answer this question not in an abstract way, but by analyzing a specifically French type of insurance for natural hazards, called the Régime d'indemnisation des catastrophes naturelles, or CatNat regime. The CatNat regime is a public-private partnership between the French state and private insurers that was put in place in the early 80s. It is meant to provide cheap insurance coverage for French residents. In the article, I specifically focus on an episode in the evolution of the CatNat regime. In 2012, one of the world's largest reinsurers, named SCOR, sued the French state, challenging the CatNat regime's very existence. A reinsurer is like an insurer, only it insures insurers. So a reinsurer is an insurer's insurer. In the following years, SCOR and its allies campaigned in favor of a natural disasters insurance system based on pure market mechanisms. that is, one that is not a public-private partnership. Score's attack was a typically neoliberal one. Its aim was to privatize the catnap regime and let private insurers and reinsurers handle climate risk in France on a private basis, as they do in many other countries. For reasons that I explain in the paper, it failed in its attempt at privatization. The purpose of my paper is to grasp the underlying logic of this litigation. In my opinion, it reveals growing tensions between private and public actors regarding the insurance of natural disasters against the backdrop of climate change. It also reveals how states will manage risks in the context of the environmental crisis. And to make sense of this case, I build on Christian Parenti's theory of the environment-making state. This approach aims at understanding the interaction between capitalism, states, and nature in modern times. I show that the catnap regime is an environment-making institution. And the question I raise then in the paper is, what happens to environment-making institutions, such as the catnap regime, in times of crisis, in this case the environmental crisis? And my argument is that crisis leads to the politicization of environment making. That is, decisions concerning the management of natural hazards are increasingly taken by the executive branch, that is, by governments. The executive branch is where the contradictory effects of climate change on the catnap regime converge and can be dealt with to some extent. And I show that this politicization may represent an important evolution in the relationship between capitalism, states, and nature in the future. Thank you for listening. Please don't hesitate to contact me to discuss the paper. You will, of course, find my email address in the article itself. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.